Thank you very much, Sophie. Now this session is open for discussion, so we encourage all of you to make questions through the microphone or through the chat, please. John, thank you.
Good morning. Thanks very much, everybody, for an excellent session, excellent start to the day. Great to be here. If you look at those really extremely convincing numbers that you've just presented us there, cholangiocarcinoma, pretty soon, for one reason or another, and there are lots of reasons we know, will no longer be a rare cancer. It'll become an uncommon, well, I don't know what you want to call it, uncommon cancer. What are the pros and cons of that?
Discuss.
Well, it's. Do you want me to start? If it goes from being rare to not being defined as rare, well, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because it means that there'll be more people getting it, which is obviously not good. But rare is relative, you know. If something only happens 1 in 1,000 times, if it happens to you, it's 100%, isn't it? So when we talk about rare, I mean, these are semantics and numbers. So I don't want anyone to get cholangiocarcinoma. So I don't want it to go from being rare to not rare. But if you're looking for any silver lining, it's that if it's no longer rare, then it comes into the fold of actually we might be able to get some funding to look at it, because and then there's a driver for trying to get political change, to try and change the priorities for funding bodies, etc., commissioning and things like that.
I guess to add to that from a data perspective, it's difficult to get evidence when, you know, if we're going to see a silver lining, when there are not numbers to do analyses. So our analyses are only possible with, you know, significant numbers of patients to allow for looking at sort of determinants, factors, adjusting for characteristics of patients as well, when we're trying to isolate whether geographic variation exists. So yeah, it enables more analysis, more in-depth analyses, evidence bases to be drawn that can then sort of drive improvements as much as possible.
Well, I strongly believe it's not a rare cancer now. I strongly believe that the incidence is well above 6 per 100,000 when you take into account misrecorded, misdiagnosed, CUP,
Yep.
add all that in, we're well above it. Yeah. But we need to have that recognised, and that's partly why we did the data project. What difference would it make? I think it would raise awareness. I think we would have that ammunition to say, look, you know, this is a neglected area. All of these people are not getting the care and treatment they so deserve. The NHS England has this target, I think it's by 2018, to have more cancers diagnosed at early stage if they don't recognise something like cholangiocarcinoma. And that is not the only one. I know from my work with Cancer 52, the rare and less common cancers, that many suffer from what we suffer from. You know, the hidden number of cancers is something. That's why it's called Cancer 52. It was 52% of cancers are attributable to the rare and less common cancers. It's now something like 54%. But they don't get the proper recognition. And until we have that, and we are going to work on cholangio, of course, how can we bring down the statistics which show that everybody gets such late stage diagnosis? We just have to have this ammunition to raise awareness. And if that means we're a less common and not a rare, in my book, that's a good thing if we can get that recognised.
Thank you. Just while you're coming to the microphone, Vincenzo, a quick question from online. Why is it that deprivation plays a role at increasing rate over time? Have you got some thoughts on that?
So yeah, it's unclear, but one of the hypotheses is that it's about risk factors, liver disease, alcoholism, potentially being prevalence of those risk factors being higher with increasing deprivation. But obviously, with a lot of cholangiocarcinomas unexplained and having no notable risk factors, it's quite hard to pick out.
I think that is a possible reason, but you know, as a hepatologist, I've seen plenty of people who drink too much who are from high social classes. So I think it's very unfair to say, oh, lower social classes drink too much. It is really across the board. I think that there are some social factors. I think the least deprived parts of our society may be less aware of their rights, they may be less pushy, they may be less savvy in terms of knowing that they can get a second opinion, they can't afford a private opinion if they want to go for that, and I think those factors are there as well. And I think, you know, we need to address the social inequality. Very important.
Do you think also that an increase in awareness and also a better diagnosis, and also they ask in the chat, pollution could be also behind this increase in incidence?
Potentially,
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are multiple factors
Multiple
behind.
factors, yeah.
Yeah, Vincenzo, please.
Yeah, thank you, Vincenzo Cardinale from Rome. Thank you very much. It's a great meeting. Very happy to be here and to see the path of the accomplishment of this environment. I'm very happy to take part to the effort that MMF, the ESCA have done in the year, and also UK colleagues. Indeed, I think that during this year we have realized that the heterogeneity in the epidemiology, in the clinical presentation, have really very solid biological, pathobiological determinants. And I think we should be very proud that through this multidisciplinary approach, and also with the great contribution of patient association, that with a great vision invest into basic science. Finally, we have realized that this complexity is based indeed on probably on the system of two complete different separate entity. The small bile duct cholangiocarcinoma and the large bile duct cholangiocarcinoma at histological level. And nowadays we know that based on this histological classification, we can predict the molecular aspect. I think that this is something that could not be realized with this multidisciplinary approach, with the help of different partners, especially MMF. So I think that we really have to be proud of the path, and I know that the World Health Organization nowadays, with the 5th edition, recognizes small and large bile duct as a new entity at histological level, because it reflects molecular alteration and therapeutic options. So I just want to add this because I think this reflects very well this long path of effort of this environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo, for your kind words. I would like to ask Sahid, how is the status of the implementation of the new coding on cholangiocarcinoma here in UK and globally? How is the status and how this can be probably improved?
The implementation of
the coding, of the different hepatic, peripheral, and distal.
So the UK has not adopted ICD-11 and probably won't do for at least another year or two. That's out of my hands because there are so many stakeholders involved. I mean, the whole of pathology for all diseases, really. But what we have done is that within the UK database, which has its own separate coding system and collection data, we just last week actually had a meeting with them to put in their field codes that they ask people to fill in for the cancer registries, and that will have the 3 separate sites, as well as a list of all the known risk factors, as well as treatments. So at least within the UK, at a local level, we can, well, at a national level, but within the UK, we can collect that data.
And do you have data globally? How is the situation if the different hospitals are moving forward?
I don't know what the situation is in other countries, but when a new ICD coding comes out, one of the problems with it, and Sophie probably knows better than me, is that different countries adopt them at different times, depending on their own timeline. So it's not like it's approved by the WHO and then on one day everyone switches to it, which is another challenge in monitoring the trends.
Thank you. A last question, please, from the mic.
I just for Raj Prasad from Leeds. I want to thank all the speakers. I enjoyed all your talks. A comment or a question to Shahid and Sophie probably. Sophie, I don't envy the challenges you had in doing this analysis. I find there is often a difficulty in differentiating cancer gallbladder from hilar cholangio, especially locally advanced cancer gallbladders. And I believe there is an underestimate of the cancer gallbladder and an overestimate of hilar cholangiocarcinomas, even within MDTs. And it's almost impossible at times to separate. And if this patient is in eastern part of the world, they would have diagnosed as cancer gallbladder. Any thoughts on that?
Well, so so I agree. I think sometimes, when a tumor is there and it's involving the gallbladder, it's impossible to know where did it start. I think if you take a step back and say, well, overall, is cholangiobiliary tract cancer increasing, whether you call it gallbladder or perihilar or whatever, it is. So the cancer of biliary arising from the biliary tract is rising. Now, there may be some semantics as to whether it starts with the gallbladder or not, but at the end of the day, it does highlight an issue about coding, in that we know that it can be very difficult to differentiate the subtype of anatomical location. But even simple things to document, like the stage of disease, which should be documented, are not being done very well. So I think we need to improve on the basics of what we record. And I think there's a general national discussion we need to have around MDTs. I mean, you and I, we both go to multiple MDTs, right? At the end of the MDT, you've got this little poor MDT coordinator who's tasked with, doing all the plans and doing the coding. But I don't think it's widespread practice at all for a senior clinician to sit with the MDT coordinator and say, this is the code, this is the code, these are the codes. Or for when our junior doctors do discharge summaries, to sit with them and say, okay, these are the things you need to put in your discharge summary so that the correct coding is done. And I think that's a major piece of work that needs to be done generally.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but I think what I see is a complete underestimate and unawareness about cancer gallbladder, which I know this is a cholangiocarcinoma meeting, but maybe an appeal to Helen and AMMF to look at this as a biliary cancer. And I think their natural histories are also very different, and the survival estimates from hilar cholangio may look unusually lower because you're including gallbladder cancer. So I think it's an appeal to raise awareness that a section of these patients are different and their survival and outcomes are very different from hilar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We want to thank all the speakers and all the audience for this excellent discussion. And now we have a 15 minutes coffee break. Please return to your seats by 10:25 for a patient perspective presentation. And please note that the exhibition hall and the poster hall is open, so please visit. Thank you very much.